I stood in that courtroom watching my sister smile, a smile I'd known my whole life but had never seen look so cold, so calculated. Her lawyer handed the judge a stack of documents, and she turned to me with eyes that held no remorse, no sisterly love, just pure triumph. Finally, she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Your house is mine." My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces right there. This wasn't just about losing my home. This was about losing the one person I thought would never betray me, the sister I protected, supported, and loved unconditionally for 38 years. The gasps in the courtroom meant nothing to her. She'd won, or so she thought. What she didn't know was that I'd been 10 steps ahead of her for months. Sometimes the people closest to us become the monsters we never see coming, and sometimes, justice finds its way back around. Before we dive into how this nightmare began and how it ended, if you love stories about standing up against betrayal and finding your power when everything seems lost, hit that subscribe button and join our Revenge Unleashed family. Drop a like if you believe in karma, and comment below telling us about a time someone underestimated you. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. My name is Rebecca, and I'm a single mother of 2 beautiful kids, Emma and Jake. For 15 years, I'd worked double shifts as an ER nurse, saving every penny I could to buy our dream house. It wasn't a mansion, just a modest 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood outside of Cleveland, but it was ours. The backyard had an old oak tree perfect for a tire swing, and the kitchen got the most beautiful morning light. My kids had their own rooms for the first time in their lives. I'd finally done it. I'd given them stability after years of struggling in cramped apartments, counting coins to make rent. My sister Jennifer had always been different from me. Where I was practical and hardworking, she was impulsive and entitled. Our parents had spoiled her, always bailing her out of bad decisions, failed businesses, and terrible relationships. When they passed away 5 years ago, they left us each a small inheritance. I put mine toward my house down payment. Jennifer burned through hers in 6 months on a luxury trip to Europe and designer handbags. But she was still my sister, and when she showed up at my door 2 years ago crying about being evicted, I opened my home to her. She had nowhere else to go, she said. She just needed a few months to get back on her feet. My kids loved their Aunt Jenny. She was fun and spontaneous, everything I couldn't afford to be while working myself to exhaustion to keep our heads above water. Those few months turned into a year, then longer. Jennifer never contributed to bills, always had an excuse about job interviews that never panned out. I was too tired and too trusting to see what was happening right under my nose. She wasn't looking for work. She was looking for an opportunity. It started with small things. She'd answer the door when contractors came by for repairs, introducing herself as the homeowner. She collected my mail before I got home from night shifts. She made friends with the neighbors, hosting little gatherings in my backyard while I was at the hospital, telling everyone this was her family home. I thought she was just being helpful, taking some burden off my shoulders. I was so naive. The real nightmare began 14 months ago. I came home from a 72-hour shift, exhausted and ready to collapse, and found Jennifer sitting at my kitchen table with a man in an expensive suit. She introduced him as her lawyer. My stomach dropped before I even knew why. She slid a document across the table toward me with that same cold smile I'd later see in court. She was suing me for ownership of the house, claiming I'd stolen her inheritance to make the down payment, that she'd been making all the mortgage payments, that the house was rightfully hers and I'd manipulated and emotionally abused her. Every word was a lie, but she'd been building her case methodically. She had forged documents showing bank transfers that never happened. She'd befriended my neighbors specifically to have them as witnesses, telling them elaborate stories about how I'd stolen from her. She'd even manipulated my kids, recording conversations where they innocently mentioned Aunt Jenny's house, because that's what she'd been coaching them to call it. I wanted to scream, to throw her out right then, but the lawyer calmly explained that would constitute a legal eviction since she was now a documented tenant with rights. I was trapped in my own home with a snake I'd welcomed in and warmed by my fire. The legal battle consumed everything. I had to hire a lawyer I couldn't afford. Court dates meant missed shifts and lost income. Jennifer played the victim perfectly, showing up to hearings in simple, borrowed-looking clothes, crying about how her successful sister had always overshadowed her, had taken advantage of her vulnerable position. I stood there in my scrubs, bags under my eyes, trying to explain the truth to a judge who looked increasingly sympathetic to her performance. She was good, I'll give her that. She'd thought of everything, or so she believed. What Jennifer didn't know was that I'm not just a nurse. I'm a trauma nurse. I've spent 15 years staying calm in life or death situations, thinking clearly when chaos erupts around me, noticing details others miss. And I'd noticed everything. The day I came home to find her with that lawyer, something clicked into survival mode inside me. Instead of falling apart, I became methodical. I started documenting everything, but I was subtle about it. I installed hidden cameras in common areas of my home, perfectly legal since I owned the property. I watched her coach my children, record her falsifying additional documents, caught her on the phone with her lawyer discussing their strategy. I hired a forensic accountant who traced every single deposit and withdrawal I'd ever made, building an ironclad timeline that proved my down payment came from my inheritance and my savings. I gathered 15 years of pay stubs, tax returns, and mortgage statements. I contacted the contractors she'd lied to and got sworn affidavits about our actual conversations. I built my case brick by brick, but I kept it quiet. In court, I let her present her entire case first. I watched her lie under oath, watched her fake tears, watched her produce her forged documents with confidence. The judge seemed moved. My lawyer would glance at me nervously, but I stayed calm. When it was finally my turn, I didn't just defend myself. I systematically dismantled every single lie she'd constructed. The video evidence was devastating. The judge watched Jennifer coaching my 9-year-old daughter on what to say, watched her creating false documents, watched her laughing on the phone about how stupid I was for trusting her. The forensic accounting proved beyond any doubt that I'd purchased the house legitimately. The contractors testified that she'd misrepresented herself. My bank records showed I'd been paying the mortgage for years before she ever moved in. But the final blow, the one she never saw coming, involved something she'd forgotten about entirely. When our parents died, there had been a small clause in the will stating that any family member who attempted to defraud another family member would forfeit any future claims to the estate. There was a small trust fund, not much, maybe $50,000, that wouldn't mature for another 3 years. By suing me with fraudulent claims, she'd violated that clause. She wasn't just losing the house case. She was losing everything. The moment the judge ruled in my favor, declaring her lawsuit not just dismissed but ordering her to pay my legal fees and finding her in contempt for perjury, I watched all that confidence drain from her face. That smile disappeared. For the first time in 2 years, she looked at me and seemed to actually see me, to realize she'd underestimated her exhausted, overworked, stupid older sister. But I wasn't done. That's when I said my piece. I stood up and looked her in the eyes. You know what the saddest part is, Jenny? If you'd just asked me for help, really asked, I would have given you anything I could. I would have helped you rebuild your life. Instead, you tried to destroy mine and traumatize my children. You didn't just lose a house today. You lost your sister, your niece, and your nephew. You lost your family. And for what? She had nothing to say. Security escorted her out as she was held in contempt for an outburst. I later learned she'd been staying with the lawyer she'd been sleeping with to secure his help, and he dropped her immediately when the case fell apart, afraid of losing his license for participating in fraud. The aftermath was harder than I expected. My kids had nightmares. Emma stopped trusting easily. Jake became protective of me in ways no 10-year-old should have to be. We all needed therapy to process the betrayal. I had to explain to them that sometimes people we love make terrible choices, and it's not our fault for loving them or trusting them. Financially, recovering took time. Even though Jennifer was ordered to pay my legal fees, she declared bankruptcy to avoid it. But we kept our home. I picked up extra shifts. The neighbors who'd testified for her apologized, many bringing meals and offering to help with the kids. The community rallied around us in unexpected ways. A year later, my house still stands with that old oak tree out back, the tire swing I finally installed swaying in the breeze. Emma and Jake are healing, learning that betrayal doesn't mean they should stop trusting everyone, just that they should trust wisely. I'm teaching them that standing up for yourself doesn't make you vengeful. It makes you strong. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jennifer moved out of state, working retail, and still blaming everyone but herself for her situation. Part of me feels sad for her, for the relationship we'll never have, for the aunt my kids deserved. But mostly, I feel grateful. Grateful I found the strength to fight back, grateful I had the skills to outmaneuver her schemes, grateful my kids will grow up knowing their mother doesn't let anyone push her around. This experience taught me that revenge isn't always about destroying someone. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be destroyed, standing your ground, and letting the truth speak for itself. Jennifer tried to take everything from me and ended up losing far more than I ever could have taken from her. She lost her integrity, her family, and any chance at redemption because she was too proud to admit what she'd done even when caught. To anyone watching who's facing betrayal, especially from someone close to you, I want you to know something important. You're stronger than you think. That exhaustion you feel, that despair when someone you love turns on you, it's real and valid. But underneath it, there's steel. There's a survivor who can outlast, outthink, and outlive any scheme someone throws at you. Document everything. Stay calm. Don't let rage make you sloppy. Build your case methodically. And most importantly, never let someone else's cruelty make you cruel. I could have retaliated in petty ways, could have destroyed Jennifer's reputation beyond repair, but I didn't need to. The truth was powerful enough. Justice was sweet enough. My sister declared in court that my house was finally hers. She was wrong. It was always mine, earned by my sweat, my sacrifice, my love for my children. And nothing, no scheme, no betrayal, no lawsuit, could take that away because I refused to let it go without a fight. Stand up for yourself. Trust your instincts. And remember that sometimes the person who tries to bury you doesn't realize you're a seed about to grow into something they can never uproot.